This is Chapter 3, Part 2. So this is a little visual diagram of Piaget's theory. Here we have that 0 to 2 sensory motor. Children learn by touching, biting, throwing. What does it feel like? What happens to it when you throw it? Does it break or bounce? Then after that enter this pre-operational stage. This is our toddlers and preschoolers mostly. His ages are a little different than the other theorists, but this is the age where they love pretend and make-believe. They imitate play, or in their play they imitate what they see adults do. So they are acting symbolically. She's pretending the teddy bear is a patient, and they're learning through that play and that imagination. At this age, they don't have a very good sense between what's real and what's pretend, though. It's very mixed. Then our school age kids, 7 to 11 or 12, the concrete operational stage. They're really learning rules at this stage and how those apply. This kid is learning that the long, thin glass, tall, thin glass, and the short, fat glass, the water in them may look very different, but the volume doesn't change just because the shape changes. That's called conservation, and that's a really important concept to learn. You can't do any higher math until you have figured that out. And then here's our adolescents, the formal operation stage. Now they can finally think abstractly. So they can think about the future. They can say, I want to take these science classes now and work really hard because in a few years I want to be a nurse. So they can imagine that and make the plan to get there. They can also start to think about abstract things like social justice and balancing personal freedom against society's rules. So Kohlberg has a theory on moral development, and it follows very closely with cognitive development. You have to be able to understand in order to develop a deepening understanding of morality. So his levels are pre-conventional, conventional, and post-conventional. Post-conventional has some other names it goes by. So pre-conventional, these are each divided into 2 stages, by the way. So pre-conventional is up to about 9. This is a child thinks that what is right and what is wrong is if they get punished for it, it's wrong. If they get praised for it, it's right. And there's nothing deeper than that. As they get a little older, there's still it's still the same kind of punishment reward, but it's a little more self-serving. So now they're able to think a little more deeply and decide that they want to do what's right because then they get rewards. So it's still kind of self-centered or self-serving, but it's a little deeper understanding that rather than just certain things are right, certain things are wrong because of the consequences you get from them, they're actually making choices based on them now. And then as we get into kind of later school age and adolescence, we get to the conventional stage. This is a stage where the group is right. So school age kids, older school age kids, they love to make clubs, and the clubs have rules, and those rules are essential to follow. So following the rules of society, following the rules of the family, that means a lot to them. That's how right and wrong are identified, is if they follow those rules. And then post-conventional, according to Kohlberg, a lot of adults never get here. This is being able to really see a little deeper, to look at personal rights and societal needs, and to make decisions about when is it okay to stand up against the law. If the law, thinking back to the civil rights, when is it okay to be part of a march on Washington saying that the laws are wrong and stand up against the laws? And Fowler has a theory of spiritual development. He has 4 stages: undifferentiated, where there really just is no understanding of spirituality, then intuitive projective, then mythical literal, then synthetic convention, and then individuating reflexive. And there are a couple stages beyond that, but they're in adulthood, so we won't talk about them. So that earliest undifferentiated, there just isn't, they don't do anything. So that's just stage 0. Stage 1, intuitive projective. This theory of spiritual development and moral development go hand in hand with each other. So this is where they're really starting to understand right and wrong, good and evil. But this is an age, this early childhood, kind of toddlers and preschoolers, where fantasy and reality are very blended. They don't have a good understanding of when something's imaginary and when it's real. So that's true with their understanding of faith as well. They do what they see their family do, but their understanding is not very deep at all. And then kind of school-age kids get to this mythical literal. And so this is, they have a little more understanding. They're not just following rituals that their family does, but they see God as a parent or a grandparent. They make it very concrete. Things that they understand is how they describe or define spiritual things. The next stage, and this is leading into adolescence, is synthetic conventional. They're now starting to think abstractly, and unfortunately they're also starting to see inconsistencies. They may see their parents saying one thing and doing another. So they start to also understand that their religious beliefs aren't the only ones, that there are others out there. And so it's really an age of sorting and questioning, and can be a very uncomfortable stage. And then the individuative reflexive faith. This is where they have kind of pulled apart what their family told them they should believe, and they're rebuilding it into what they are going to follow. So they're really looking deeply and developing their own belief system that's going to guide them. And then we won't do 5 and 6 because that's adults. So our book talks about body image and self-esteem. Realize kids are developing a body image very young, so be careful of the things you say. Calling them chubby may be cute, but they can have lasting effect on the development of self-esteem and their self-image. So play. We say that play is the work of childhood. Children learn through play. They learn the things that we can't teach them any other way. They learn how to work out conflict by having 2 stuffed animals argue or disagree. So they learn those things that they kind of see adults do. They figure it out through play. So some of the things play can do, it's socialization. It helps them to learn creativity, self-awareness, realizing how their actions affect others and make others see them, and then also moral standards. When you're part of a group, you can't just do what you want to do. You have to follow the rules of that group. So play is therapeutic at any age. So for all of your patients, think about what play is going to help them. And young kids love things that are tactile, like finger paints. Other things about play, infant is just an onlooker. As they get a little older, they play, but it's solitary. They just play by themselves. When they get to be toddler age, they do parallel play. They want to go to the park where the other kids are, and they want to play in the sand with the other kids, but they sit down next to the other kids and do the same thing next to them, but not interactive. So that's parallel play. And that's kind of toddler age. And then preschoolers do associative play, and this one I think is really fun to watch. This is where they decide to play monsters, and they run around. And one day playing monsters means we're all monsters. The next day it means we're fighting monsters. In the middle of the game, somebody says, I'm the monster, and so then you chase them, and then they say, the monster's over there, and so now you stop chasing them. There are no set rules. It's very fluid. And then cooperative play. This is your school-age kid who can actually play a board game that has rules and follow the rules. And here they are playing a board game. Developmental screening. The one that's most often used is the Denver Developmental Screening Tool. So it's DDST. The DDST2 is the one that's usually used. A screening is not diagnostic, and that's important to remember. So when we do developmental screening on kids, we're checking to see if they've reached the developmental milestones that most kids have at that age. If they haven't, then we need to look further into it. And there may be a reason why they haven't. It may be they've never been exposed to that. A kid who can't ride a bike may have never sat on a bike. It's not that they're not able to, but they've never had the opportunity. So a child who's walking late, maybe they are a child who's just been held most of the time. They haven't really been put down, or put down where there are things they can pull up on and start developing that balance and that strength. So it doesn't mean there's a problem. It just means we need to look a little further and do those diagnostic tests, which will diagnose if there is a problem or is not a problem. So that's what developmental screening is.